you have read thousands of books in your life, but I am willing to bet you have never been taught how to read, not how to decode words on a page. You learned that in first grade. I mean, how to read, how to take a difficult book, a book that is above you, that challenges you, that contains ideas you don't yet understand, and systematically extract its meaning. How to wrestle with an author's argument, how to find the skeleton hidden beneath the flesh of the text, how to make a book yours. Most people can't do this, not because they're stupid, because nobody ever taught them. Mortimer Adler wrote How to Read a Book in 1940. It became an immediate bestseller and stayed at the top of the charts for over a year. He revised it in 1972 with Charles Van Doren. And here's the uncomfortable truth it reveals. Most educated adults read at a 6th grade level. Not in terms of vocabulary, in terms of comprehension. They can follow a simple narrative, they can absorb information that's already at their level, but put them in front of a closely written argument, a carefully structured exposition, a passage requiring critical analysis, and they're lost. Adler quotes a professor who studied this problem. The average high school student is amazingly inept at indicating the central thought of a passage. To all intents and purposes, he remains a 6th grade reader till well along in college. That was written in 1939, it's still true in 2026. This book is the antidote, and I'm going to give you the framework right now. Adler's central insight is that reading is not one skill, it is 4 levels of skill stacked on top of each other. Each level includes all the levels below it. Most people never get past the first. Level 1 is elementary reading. This is what you learned in school. Can you decode the words? Can you understand the sentence, "The cat sat on the hat"? If yes, you can read at the elementary level. Congratulations, you share this skill with every literate person on the planet. Level 2 is inspectional reading. This is the art of getting the most out of a book in a limited time. Systematic skimming, pre-reading. It answers the question, what is this book about, and is it worth reading carefully? Level 3 is analytical reading. This is thorough, complete, deep reading. It is the best reading you can do when you have unlimited time. It answers the question, what does this book mean, and is it true? Level 4 is syntopical reading. This is reading multiple books on the same subject and constructing an analysis that may not exist in any single book. It is the most demanding and most rewarding form of reading. Most people live their entire lives at level 1. Some occasionally practice level 2. Almost nobody systematically practices levels 3 and 4. Let me show you what you're missing. Let's start with inspectional reading because this is where most people first go wrong. Adler says there are 2 types of inspectional reading. The first is systematic skimming. Before you commit to reading a book carefully, you should spend 15 minutes to an hour doing the following. Read the title page and preface. Study the table of contents. Check the index. Read the publisher's blurb. Look at the chapters that seem pivotal. And then, turn the pages, dipping in here and there, reading a paragraph or 2. Never more than that. Always read the last 2 or 3 pages. This sounds almost disrespectful, but Adler argues it's the opposite. It's intelligent. You are a detective looking for clues. You are trying to determine what kind of book this is, what it's about, and whether it deserves your full attention. Most people skip this entirely. They start on page 1 and plow through. They try to understand the book's structure and its content simultaneously. That's like trying to see the forest and count the trees at the same time. The second type of inspectional reading is even more counterintuitive. Adler calls it superficial reading. His rule is this: when tackling a difficult book for the first time, read it through without ever stopping to look up or ponder the things you do not understand. Don't stop at the hard parts. Don't look up every unfamiliar word. Don't get bogged down in footnotes. Just keep going. Read the whole thing. Why? because understanding half of a difficult book is infinitely better than understanding none of it. And you will understand none of it if you let yourself get stuck on page 30 and never finish. Adler points out that this is exactly what happened to generations of students forced to read Shakespeare scene by scene, looking up every word in a glossary. By the time they reached the end, they'd forgotten the beginning and lost the whole. They should have been encouraged to read the play in one sitting first and then study it closely. This is the essence of inspectional reading. Get the lay of the land before you start digging. I'll link the book in the description. It's the most practical guide to reading ever written. Now let's get to the heart of the book. Analytical reading. This is where Adler earns his place in intellectual history. Analytical reading has 3 stages governed by a set of rules. I'm going to give you the rules. They sound simple. They are not. Stage 1, finding out what the book is about. Rule 1, classify the book. Know what kind of book you're reading before you begin. Is it fiction or non-fiction? Practical or theoretical? History, science, or philosophy? This matters because different kinds of books require different kinds of reading. Rule 2, state the unity of the book in a single sentence. What is the whole book about? Not what kind of book it is, but what the author is up to. What is the main theme? If you can't say it in one sentence, you haven't grasped it. Rule 3, set forth the major parts of the book and show how they are organized into a whole. Every book has a skeleton. Your job is to find it. Adler uses a beautiful analogy. A book is like a house with many rooms. Each room has its own structure, but they are connected by doors and corridors. You need to see both the rooms and the traffic pattern. Rule 4, find out what the author's problems were. What questions is the author trying to answer? What problems is the book trying to solve? If you can state the author's questions, you understand the book's purpose. These 4 rules together answer the first of Adler's 4 fundamental questions. What is the book about as a whole? Stage 2, interpreting the book's contents. Rule 5, come to terms with the author. Find the key words and figure out exactly what the author means by them. This is harder than it sounds. Words have multiple meanings. The same word can mean different things in different contexts. You haven't understood an author until you've understood their terms, the specific meanings they attach to their key words. Rule 6. Grasp the author's leading propositions. Find the key sentences. These are the sentences that express the author's main judgments. They are usually the sentences you find hardest to understand because they contain the most meaning. Rule 7. Know the author's arguments. Find the sequences of sentences that constitute the author's reasoning. How does the author support their propositions? What evidence do they offer? What logical steps do they take? Rule 8. Determine which of the author's problems have been solved and which have not. What did the author set out to do? Did they succeed? What remains unresolved? These rules answer the second fundamental question, what is being said in detail and how? Stage 3. Criticizing the book. This is where most readers fail completely. Either they never criticize at all, accepting everything passively, or they criticize prematurely, before they've understood what the author is actually saying. Adler's rules for criticism are elegant. Rule 9. Do not begin to criticize until you have completed your understanding. You must be able to say, I understand, before you can say, I agree or I disagree. Most disagreements are actually misunderstandings in disguise. Rule 10. Do not disagree contentiously. Disagreement is not a contest. It is a search for truth. If you disagree, you should be able to explain why, and you should be open to the possibility that you are wrong. Rule 11. Respect the difference between knowledge and opinion. When you disagree with an author, you must give reasons. You can say the author is uninformed, misinformed, illogical, or incomplete, but you must specify which, and you must support your claim. These rules answer the third and fourth fundamental questions. Is the book true? And what of it? Now let me give you the single most practical takeaway from this entire book. It's so simple that most people dismiss it, but it is the difference between passive and active reading. Adler says, ask questions while you read. Not any questions. 4 specific questions. 1. What is the book about as a whole? 2. What is being said in detail and how? 3. Is the book true in whole or part? 4. What of it? What is the significance? If you ask these 4 questions of every serious book you read, and if you try to answer them, you will read better than 99% of educated adults. That's not an exaggeration. Most people read without asking any questions at all. They receive the text passively, like a ball landing in a glove. But reading is not catching. Reading is wrestling. Adler uses a brilliant analogy. He compares reading to baseball. The writer is the pitcher, the reader is the catcher. Both are active. The ball, the text, is the passive object between them. A good catcher can handle any kind of pitch, fastballs, curves, changeups, knucklers. A good reader can handle any kind of writing. But most people read as if they were sitting in the stands watching the game. They're spectators, not players. I'll link the book in the description. If you read one book about reading this year, make it this one. I'll also link Adler's recommended reading list from the appendix, which is one of the best curated lists of great books ever assembled. Let me talk about the highest level, syntopical reading. This is the level that transforms you from a reader into a thinker. Syntopical reading means reading multiple books on the same subject and constructing your own analysis, not just comparing what different authors say, but creating a framework that none of them created individually. Adler outlines 5 steps. Step 1, find the relevant passages. You're not reading whole books at this stage. You're reading for your question, not for the author's question. The books serve you, not the other way around. Step 2, bring the authors to terms. Different authors use different words for the same concepts. You must establish a common vocabulary. Your vocabulary, not theirs, so you can compare what they're actually saying. Step 3, get the questions clear. Frame a set of questions that all the authors can be interpreted as answering, even if they didn't explicitly ask those questions. Step 4, define the issues. Where do the authors agree? Where do they disagree? What are the actual points of contention? Step 5, analyze the discussion. Arrange the issues in an order that throws maximum light on the subject. The goal is not to take sides, but to understand the full landscape of the debate. This is the most powerful form of reading because it produces original thought. You are not just absorbing what others have written, you are synthesizing it into something new, something that exists in no single book, something that exists only in your mind. In 2026, this skill is more valuable than ever. We are drowning in information. AI can summarize any book in seconds, but AI cannot do syntopical reading. It cannot construct a genuine understanding across multiple perspectives. It cannot ask the questions that matter. That remains a uniquely human capability, and almost nobody develops it. Let me close with something Adler says in the final chapter that I think about constantly. He talks about a pyramid of books. At the base are the thousands of books that are worth reading once. They inform you, they entertain you, they are good books. Above them are the much smaller number of books that are worth reading analytically. These are the books that challenge you, that stretch your understanding, that make you work. And at the very top of the pyramid, a tiny number of books, perhaps no more than a few dozen in the entire history of Western literature, are the books that you can never finish reading. Every time you return to them, you find something new, not because the book has changed, because you have changed. You bring more to the book each time, and the book gives more back. These are the books that grow with you, the books that are always over your head no matter how many times you read them, the books that constitute, as Adler puts it, the life and growth of the mind. Here's the thing, you cannot find these books if you don't know how to read. You cannot benefit from them if you approach them passively, and you cannot grow from them if you never learn to ask the right questions. Adler wrote this book because he believed that reading is not a luxury. It is a discipline. Like any discipline, it can be learned. Like any discipline, it requires practice. And like any discipline, the rewards are proportional to the effort. In an age of infinite content and shrinking attention spans, in an age where AI can generate text faster than any human can read it, the ability to read deeply, critically, and syntopically is not just valuable. It is the last intellectual advantage that cannot be automated. You can find the book's link in the description and also the pinned comment. If you've been consuming books without truly reading them, this is where you start. The art of reading is the art of thinking, and the art of thinking is the art of being free. I'll see you in the next one.